There is nothing you need to do with this moment. Nothing you need to focus on. Nothing you need to understand. You don't have to listen carefully, and you don't have to let go of anything either. Just allow this voice to exist somewhere near you, not as something important, not as something you need to follow, just as a quiet presence in the background of the room. If your eyes are open, they can remain open. If they close, that's fine too. Tonight isn't asking you to relax. It isn't asking you to improve your state of mind. And it isn't asking you to become calm. Whatever your mind is doing right now is allowed to be here. Thoughts may still move. Images may appear. The body may still feel alert, or tired, or restless. None of that means something has gone wrong. You don't need to arrive in a certain way for this moment to be valid. You're allowed to arrive exactly as you are, even if you're not sure how you feel. Even if part of you is still holding the day. You're also allowed to leave at any time. If sleep comes while these words are still being spoken, you don't need to notice it happening. Nothing important depends on your awareness. For now, you can simply stay close to the sound, the way you might sit near a soft light at night, not looking directly at it, just knowing it's there. There is no pace to keep up with here. No experience you're supposed to be having. This moment doesn't need your effort. It doesn't need your attention. It can hold itself. You don't need to change the way you're breathing. There is no better rhythm to find. Just notice that breathing is already happening, quietly, without instruction. Air moves in, air moves out, and the body continues on its own. If the breath feels shallow, let it be shallow. If it feels uneven, let it be uneven. Nothing here needs to be corrected. As you listen, you might begin to sense the body more clearly, not to analyze it, not to adjust it, just to notice where it's already being supported, the weight of your head, the place where your back meets the surface beneath you, the way your arms are resting without effort. You don't need to scan for tension. If you notice it, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. With each breath out, allow whatever doesn't need to stay to soften a little. Not all at once, not completely, just enough. The shoulders may drop slightly, or they may stay exactly the same. The jaw may loosen, or it may not. There is no correct response. Let attention drift slowly downward, through the chest, the belly, the hips and legs, without stopping anywhere for too long. Gravity is already doing most of the work. You don't need to help it. If the mind wanders, you don't need to bring it back. If it returns on its own, you don't need to keep it here. Nothing important depends on staying focused. Each breath out can feel like a small permission, a signal that, for now, there is nothing you need to hold together. The body knows how to rest when it's not being rushed. You don't need to relax more than you already are. You don't need to feel different. Just let the body continue exactly as it is, supported, allowed, and free to settle in its own time. You don't need to feel calm to be safe. And you don't need to feel safe all at once. Safety often arrives quietly, not as a feeling, but as the absence of urgency. Notice the space around you, the room staying still, the distance between your body and the walls. Nothing is moving toward you. Nothing is asking for an answer. Even time feels softer here, less demanding, less precise. If your mind drifts to earlier moments, or to what tomorrow might bring, you don't need to pull it back. You're allowed to leave this moment and return when you want. You're allowed to stay away for a while. This space doesn't collapse when your attention wanders. There is nothing fragile about it. You may notice a sense of being held, not emotionally, not dramatically, just physically supported by what's already beneath you. And if you don't notice that, that's fine too. Safety doesn't always feel warm. Sometimes it feels neutral. Sometimes it feels empty. That emptiness is not loneliness. It's space without demand. A space where you don't have to perform. A space where nothing is being measured. Right now, you are not being evaluated. You are not falling behind. You don't need to prepare for what comes next. You don't need to stay alert. If sleep begins to arrive, you can let it come without noticing. If it doesn't, there is no rush. This moment will hold you either way. You can let the body sink a little deeper, not intentionally, just by allowing gravity to finish what it's already doing. Nothing more is required. Most of the time, the mind isn't tired because it's weak. It's tired because it keeps trying to hold things in place. It watches what might happen next. It replays what already happened. It measures, compares, prepares. This movement can feel constant, like a background hum that never fully turns off. Even when the body lies down, the mind may still be standing guard.
Not because it wants to, but because it learned that staying alert was useful. Over time, attention becomes a tool, something used to manage outcomes, to avoid mistakes, to get things right, and slowly, without anyone noticing, rest begins to feel unproductive. So the mind keeps moving, searching for a better moment,
A clearer answer, a sense of completion that never quite arrives. This doesn't mean the mind is doing something wrong. It means it's been trained to value control. But control has a cost. When every moment is evaluated, there is very little space left to simply be here. The body feels this first. Tightness appears without a clear reason. Sleep becomes lighter. Thoughts feel louder at night. Not because night is the problem, but because it's the first time the mind isn't being asked to perform. Here, there is no outcome to manage, no result to achieve. And that can feel unfamiliar. If the mind resists slowing down, that resistance doesn't need to be argued with. It doesn't need to be convinced. It only needs to be allowed to rest between efforts. You don't have to stop thinking. You don't have to make sense of any of this. Just notice that the tiredness you feel isn't a personal failure. It's what happens when attention has been working for a long time without enough space to set itself down. Tonight, nothing is asking for that effort. The mind doesn't need to arrive anywhere else for this moment to be enough. Much of the exhaustion people feel doesn't come from doing too much, but from needing things to turn out a certain way. The mind learns, very early on, that outcomes matter. That effort should lead somewhere. That time must produce results. So attention becomes tight. It watches the future closely, trying to shape it before it arrives. It holds on to the past, looking for signs of what went wrong or what should have been different. This constant reaching forward and backward creates the sense that something is always unfinished. Even rest begins to feel conditional, something you earn only after everything is handled. And because everything is never fully handled, the body stays slightly tense, even in moments meant for rest. This isn't because the mind is flawed. It's because it believes control equals safety. If I stay alert, nothing bad will surprise me. If I think far enough ahead, I'll be prepared. But control is heavy. It asks the nervous system to stay awake even when there's nothing happening. It asks the body to brace for events that aren't here. Over time, this effort stops feeling like effort. It feels normal. So when the mind is invited to soften, it may resist. Not because it wants to keep you awake, but because it doesn't trust rest yet. Let that resistance exist. You don't need to challenge it. You don't need to explain anything to it. Just notice what happens when nothing is being planned, even for a few moments. The future doesn't disappear. The past doesn't need to be resolved. They simply step back slightly, enough to let this moment breathe. You don't have to give up control tonight. You only have to stop gripping it so tightly. And even that can happen gradually, without effort. There is an old Zen story about a man who spent his life trying to keep everything in place. He planned carefully. He prepared for every possible outcome. He believed that if he paid enough attention, nothing would fall apart. From the outside, his life looked stable, orderly, well-managed, but inside, his body never rested. Even when things were going well, his mind stayed slightly tense, as if something important might still go wrong. One evening, after a long day of managing details that never seemed to end, he walked into the mountains to clear his head. The path was familiar. He had walked it many times before. He knew where the ground was uneven, where the trail narrowed, where the light faded early. As he walked, he noticed how carefully he placed each step, how his eyes stayed fixed on the ground ahead, measuring distance, anticipating obstacles. At some point, the path grew steeper. The light began to change. The sounds around him softened, and then, without warning, the trail disappeared beneath a layer of fallen leaves. He stopped. For the first time that day, there was no clear next step, no visible path to follow, no way to predict what came next. His body tightened immediately. The familiar urge to regain control returned. He stood there for a long time, trying to decide the safest way forward.
But nothing revealed itself. Eventually, tired of standing still, he did something unfamiliar. He paused. Not to think, not to plan, just to notice where he was. The air was cool. The ground felt steady beneath his feet. The forest wasn't rushing him. For the first time in a long while, he stopped trying to manage the moment and allowed it to exist as it was.
Standing there, surrounded by quiet, he noticed something unexpected. Nothing bad was happening. The path was unclear. Yes, but the ground beneath him was still firm. The air was still cool. His breath was still moving. He realized that for years, he had been bracing against moments that never arrived, preparing for danger that existed only in imagination, holding tension for outcomes that might never come. As he softened his stance, even slightly, his body responded. The tightness in his shoulders eased. His breathing slowed on its own. He took a step forward, not because he knew where it would land, but because standing still no longer felt necessary. The leaves shifted beneath his feet, revealing the trail that had been there all along. It hadn't disappeared. It had only been covered. He smiled, not with relief, but with recognition. The moment he stopped trying to control the path became visible again. He continued walking, not watching every step so closely, not measuring the distance ahead. The forest felt different now, wider, less demanding. Later, when he reached home, he noticed that the same sense of ease followed him inside. The details of life were still there. Responsibilities remained. But something had shifted. He no longer felt the need to grip each moment so tightly. He trusted that the ground would meet him when he stepped. And with that trust, rest became possible. Not because everything was solved, but because he no longer needed everything to be solved before allowing himself to breathe. There is another Zen story, often told quietly, about a man who spent most of his life somewhere other than where his body was. When he walked, his mind was already ahead of him. When he sat down, part of him was still standing in a moment that had already passed. People around him rarely noticed. He was polite, attentive, and capable. But inside, time never seemed to settle. The present moment felt thin, like something he was constantly passing through on the way to somewhere else. In the mornings, he replayed yesterday. In the evening, he prepared for tomorrow. Even when nothing was urgent, his mind moved as if something important was about to happen. One afternoon, he visited an old teacher, hoping for clarity. He explained that no matter where he was, he felt slightly late, slightly behind, as if life were always just ahead of him. The teacher listened without interrupting, then invited him to sit quietly in the courtyard. They sat together as the light shifted slowly across the ground. Leaves moved gently in the air. Sounds came and went without pattern. After some time, the man noticed how uncomfortable the stillness felt. His thoughts searched for meaning, for instruction, for something useful to take away. But the teacher remained silent. Eventually, the man spoke again, asking what he should be doing in moments like this. The teacher looked at him and asked a simple question, not as a test, but as an invitation. Where are you right now? The question felt ordinary, almost unnecessary. And yet, as the man turned inward to answer it, he realized he had no clear response. His body was there, sitting in the courtyard, but his attention was scattered across memories and expectations. For the first time, he noticed how rarely he actually arrived where he was, and how much effort it took to stay elsewhere. The teacher said nothing more. There was no explanation, no advice. Just as they continued to sit, the man noticed something subtle begin to change. Nothing dramatic happened. No insight arrived all at once. There was only a gentle shift in how his attention moved. Instead of searching ahead, it began to rest where it was. He felt the weight of his body on the ground, the way the air touched his skin, the quiet rhythm of breathing that had been there all along, unnoticed because it didn't ask for anything. For the first time in a long while, time didn't feel like something he was falling behind. The teacher still said nothing. And in that silence, the man realized that the present moment didn't need to be held together. It didn't need to be improved or understood. It was already complete, without effort. He noticed how often he treated the present as a doorway rather than a place to stand, always moving through it on the way to something else. Planning, remembering, preparing, and how exhausting that constant movement had been. As he allowed himself to remain where he was, even briefly, a quiet ease appeared. Not happiness, not relief, just a sense of not being pulled in two directions at once. The leaves continued to move. The light continued to shift. Nothing paused for him. And yet, he no longer felt separate from what was happening around him. When he eventually stood to leave, the world looked the same. The path back was unchanged. Responsibilities were still waiting. But something essential had softened. He understood that the present moment was not something to capture. It was something to enter, and entering it did not require effort, only the willingness to stop leaving. That understanding didn't need to be remembered. It didn't need to be practiced. It simply returned whenever he stopped rushing past himself. You don't need to hold on to that story, and you don't need to remember what it pointed to. Let it fade the way the afternoon light faded in the courtyard, without effort, without a clear ending. As it settles, allow attention to return gently to where you are now, not to check anything, not to adjust anything, just to notice what is already present. Feel the body resting where it rests.
The contact with the surface beneath you, the quiet continuity of breathing that doesn't need to be guided or shaped. Notice how the present moment feels when it's not being used as a bridge to somewhere else. There is no need to arrive more fully. There is no need to stay. If thoughts appear, let them move through without following them.
If they pause, let that pause remain unfilled. The present does not ask for commentary. It does not ask to be named. It only continues. You may notice a small sense of steadiness, not something dramatic, just the absence of pulling forward or backward. And if you don't notice that, let that be true as well. Nothing needs to happen for this moment to be complete. For a few breaths, there is nowhere else to go. No time to catch up to, no earlier moment to correct. Just this, unfolding on its own. Allow the body to keep whatever ease it finds, and to release whatever it doesn't need to hold right now. Not all at once, not permanently. Just enough for the next breath to arrive without resistance. You don't need to practice being present. Presence returns naturally when effort steps aside. Let that be enough as the story closes and the night continues. There is a Zen story about a woman who believed her greatest problem was her mind. No matter where she went, thoughts followed her. When she tried to rest, they grew louder. When she tried to focus, they multiplied. She described it as being trapped in a room where voices never stopped talking. She tried everything she could think of. She distracted herself with work. She filled her evenings with noise. She told herself to think positive, to push unwanted thoughts away. But the harder she tried to control them, the more restless she felt. Eventually, she went to see a teacher, hoping to learn how to quiet her mind. She explained how exhausting it was to carry so many thoughts, how she felt unable to escape them even for a moment. The teacher listened calmly, then asked her to sit down and close her eyes. For a while, nothing happened. Thoughts continued, just as before. She opened her eyes and said that it wasn't working. The teacher smiled gently and asked her to describe what she had noticed. She replied that the thoughts kept coming, one after another, refusing to stop. The teacher asked her a simple question. When you noticed the thoughts, he said, "Where were you?" She paused. She realized that while thoughts were moving, something else had been present too. An awareness that could see them come and go. An attention that wasn't being carried away, even when the thoughts felt strong. The teacher didn't ask her to make the thoughts disappear. He didn't ask her to replace them with better ones. He only invited her to notice the space in which they appeared, the quiet background that remained unchanged, no matter how busy the mind became. For the first time, she considered the possibility that thoughts were not the problem. Perhaps it was the struggle with them that had been so tiring. As she stayed with that question, something subtle shifted. The thoughts did not stop. They continued to appear, one after another, familiar and insistent. But she noticed that they no longer felt as solid as before. They were still there, yet they no longer filled the entire space of her experience. The teacher invited her to imagine the mind as an open sky. Thoughts were clouds moving through it, sometimes light and scattered, sometimes heavy and slow. The sky did not chase the clouds away. It did not try to hold on to them either. It simply remained, wide and unchanged. As she listened, she realized how much energy she had spent trying to clear the sky, believing that peace required emptiness, and how exhausting that effort had been. The sky, she saw, had never needed to be cleared at all. When she allowed thoughts to move without interference, they began to lose their urgency. Some drifted by quickly, others lingered, then softened on their own. None of them needed to be finished or resolved for the moment to continue. She noticed that awareness itself did not argue with what appeared. It did not judge. It did not rush ahead. It stayed present, quietly witnessing everything that came and went. For the first time, rest did not depend on silence. It depended on space. The teacher reminded her that the mind produces thoughts the way the lungs produce breath. It is not a mistake, it is not a failure, and it does not require correction. When she stopped pushing against the movement of her mind, a gentle calm appeared, not because the mind was empty, but because it was no longer being fought. She left with no technique to practice, no instruction to repeat. Only the understanding that thoughts could be allowed, just as they were, without being followed. And in that allowing, the body naturally began to settle, as if it had been waiting for permission all along. You don't need to remember that story, and you don't need to repeat its images. Let it dissolve naturally, the way a cloud thins out without being pushed. As it fades, allow attention to rest in the simple act of noticing. Thoughts may still appear. They may come quietly or arrive all at once. There is no need to change their pace. There is no need to decide whether they are important.
Just notice that they arise, and notice that something in you remains when they pass. You don't have to watch closely. You don't have to stay alert. Even a soft awareness is enough. If the mind begins to comment on what is happening, let those comments be included as well. They are just another movement, another shape passing through. Nothing needs to be excluded for rest and to deepen. Notice how the body responds when it is no longer asked to manage the mind. The breath continues without instruction. The muscles hold only what they still need. Everything else is free to soften in its own time. There is no effort required to observe. Observation happens when resistance pauses. For a few moments, allow experience to move on its own. Thoughts, sensations, sounds, and space can all appear together, without hierarchy, without preference. You don't need to find silence. You don't need to wait for clarity. The moment does not become more complete when anything disappears. Simply let awareness remain open, wide enough to include whatever comes next, and gentle enough not to follow. That openness is not something you create. It is what remains when you stop trying to control the flow of experience. Let that be enough as the story closes, and as the night continues to move forward quietly, without asking for your direction. There is a Zen story about an old man who had learned, slowly and without ceremony, that nothing stayed the way he expected it to. He did not come to this understanding through philosophy or teaching, but through living long enough to watch things change again and again. People in the village often came to him when something was lost. A job that ended, a relationship that shifted, a sense of certainty that quietly disappeared. They believed he had answers, but he rarely offered explanations. Instead, he would invite them to sit with him and notice what had already changed before the loss arrived. The seasons that had passed without announcement, the body that no longer moved the way it once did, the plans that had been rewritten so many times they were barely recognizable. He spoke gently, not to instruct, but to reflect. He reminded them that life was never still long enough to be held in place. Even moments that felt stable were already in motion, slowly rearranging themselves. What caused suffering, he said quietly, was not change itself, but the expectation that things should remain as they were. At first, this felt unsettling to those who listened. They wanted reassurance. They wanted something solid to hold on to. But the old man did not offer comfort in the usual way. He offered perspective. He spoke of how every breath arrives and leaves without asking permission, how each day ends no matter how carefully it is planned. He spoke of how holding tightly does not stop change, but it does exhaust the one who holds. As they listened, some noticed a strange relief, not because their losses were explained, but because they were no longer being framed as mistakes. Change, they began to sense, was not a failure of life. It was its movement. And in that movement, there was less to fight than they had imagined. One evening, a woman came to the old man after losing something she had believed would always be there. She spoke quietly, as if raising her voice might make the loss more real. She asked him how to accept what had happened, how to stop wishing the moment could be reversed. The old man listened without interrupting. When she finished, he did not offer advice. He asked her to notice what was still present: the sound of the wind outside, the feeling of her body sitting on the ground, the breath moving in and out without effort. At first, this felt almost insulting. None of those things replaced what she had lost. But as she stayed with the moment, she noticed that while something important was gone, everything had not collapsed. Life was still unfolding, quietly, without explanation. The old man spoke again, not to minimize her pain, but to place it in a wider space. He reminded her that every attachment carries within it the certainty of change, not as a punishment, but as a natural outcome of caring. He explained that loss hurts not because something ends, but because we expect what we love to remain unchanged. We imagine continuity where none was promised. As she listened, something softened. Not the grief itself, but the resistance around it. She realized how much energy she had spent fighting the fact of change, wishing life would pause to accommodate her expectations. When that fight eased, even slightly, the grief had room to breathe. It no longer needed to be pushed away or justified. It could exist without overwhelming everything else. The old man did not say that things would get better. He did not suggest that time would heal anything. He only reflected that change would continue, as it always had, carrying both loss and renewal without preference. And in that understanding, the woman felt a quiet release. Not because she had let go of what she loved, but because she no longer needed life to be different in order to remain present. You don't need to carry that story with you. Let it rest where it ended, without taking anything from it. As it fades, allow attention to return gently to the body, not to fix or adjust, but to notice what remains when nothing is being argued with. The breath continues, unforced, arriving and leaving in its own rhythm. Sensations come and go without explanation. Even emotion,
when it appears, does not stay in one shape for long. Everything moves quietly, without asking for permission. You may notice how effort softens when you stop asking things to remain the same. The body does not need to hold the past in place. The present does not need to protect itself from the future. There is a small relief in allowing change to continue without resistance. If there is sadness when aware, let it be present without being named. If there is ease, let it be present without being claimed. Nothing needs to last in order to be allowed here. For a few breaths, notice what it feels like to stop negotiating with experience, not agreeing with it, not pushing it away, simply letting it pass through at its own pace. Change does not need your cooperation to happen, but it often asks for less effort than we give it. When you stop holding, something else takes over. The body settles a little deeper. The mind grows quieter, not because it is empty, but because it is no longer bracing. You don't need to make peace with impermanence. Peace appears on its own when the struggle with it loosens. Let that loosening happen naturally, without direction. As the night continues, allow whatever is here to move on when it's ready. Nothing is being lost by letting go of the need for things to stay. There is a Zen story about a young man who felt as if his life were always slightly behind schedule. No matter how much he achieved, there was a sense that something essential had not yet happened. Someone he was supposed to become had not arrived. He worked carefully. He learned what was expected. He tried to shape himself into versions that seemed more complete, more settled, more worthy of rest. And still, the feeling followed him, quiet but persistent, like a task left unfinished. One evening, he visited an old teacher and asked a simple question. "When does it stop?" he said. "When do I finally arrive?" The teacher did not answer right away. He invited the young man to sit with him as the night settled around them. The air cooled. Sounds softened. Nothing in the moment seemed to be in a hurry. After a long while, the teacher spoke, not to explain, but to reflect. He asked the young man who he believed he needed to become in order to be allowed to rest. The question felt unfamiliar. The young man searched for an answer and found only expectations he had borrowed over time. The teacher listened, then asked him to notice something simpler. The fact that he was already sitting, already breathing, already present in the moment without effort. The young man realized how rarely he allowed himself to be where he was, without comparing it to where he thought he should be. How much of his energy had been spent becoming, rather than being. The teacher said nothing more. There was no instruction to abandon goals, no suggestion to change his life. Only the quiet implication that rest had never been waiting at the end of the path. It had been available wherever he stopped trying to arrive somewhere else. As they remained sitting together, the young man noticed how unfamiliar it felt to have nothing to work toward. There was no instruction to follow, no next step being offered, no quiet pressure to improve the moment. At first, that absence felt unsettling, like standing still in a world that usually rewarded movement. Gradually, something else became clear. Without a goal to chase, his attention softened. He felt the simple weight of his body resting where it was, the steady rhythm of breathing that did not depend on effort, the night continuing without concern for who he was becoming. The teacher spoke again, gently, reminding him that the idea of becoming someone was built from comparisons, expectations, and borrowed timelines. None of those existed in the present moment. Here, there was no future version required in order to justify being here now. The young man noticed how often he postponed rest, telling himself it would come later, after something was finished. after he was different. And he saw, perhaps for the first time, that later never arrived, because becoming had no clear end. As that realization settled, a quiet release followed. Not relief, not accomplishment, just a sense of no longer needing to move away from himself.
The body responded by settling more deeply. The mind grew quieter, not because it had been silenced, but because it was no longer being pushed forward. The teacher did not suggest abandoning ambition or changing direction. He only reflected that being present did not cancel becoming. It simply removed the urgency around it.
Life could still move, still unfold, without requiring the self to be completed first. In that space, the young man felt something he had been seeking for a long time. Not clarity, not certainty, but permission. Permission to be here without conditions. Permission to rest without earning it. And that permission did not need to be remembered. It returned whenever he stopped asking who he needed to be next. You don't need to hold on to that story. And you don't need to take anything from it. Let it rest where it ends, without turning it into a conclusion. As it fades, allow attention to return to the simplest thing that has been here all along, the breath. Not as something to guide or control, but as a quiet movement the body already knows how to make. Air enters without effort. Air leaves without being pushed. The rhythm does not need your help. Notice how the body responds when there is nothing left to achieve. The shoulders soften slightly. The jaw loosens on its own. The space behind the eyes grows heavier, slower. You don't need to deepen the breath. You don't need to slow it down. Simply notice that each breath out creates a little more room, as if the body is being allowed to take up its own space without apology. For a few moments, there is no future version of you waiting to arrive. There is no standard to meet. There is no self that needs improvement before rest is permitted. Just this body, breathing. Just this moment, unfolding. If thoughts appear, let them pass without asking where they're going. If sensations shift, let them shift without being followed. Nothing here requires participation. Each breath out can feel like a quiet permission to stop becoming, just for now.
Not forever, not as a decision, just as a pause. The body understands pause as well. It settles into them naturally when it is no longer being pushed forward. Stay with that settling. Let it deepen at its own pace. You don't need to watch it happen. As the night continues, allow the breath to remain the only thing that moves with any clarity, while everything else grows softer around it. The effort to be someone can rest now. There is nothing more to become in this moment. From here, there is nothing more you need to listen for. You don't need to follow these words, and you don't need to stay aware of them. They are only here to mark time gently, the way the night does, without asking you to be present for it. Let the breath continue as it has been, quiet and unforced. There is no need to change its rhythm. The body knows when to slow. The body knows when to rest. You may notice a sense of heaviness spreading gradually, not all at once and not evenly, just in the places that are ready. The weight behind the eyes, the softness in the face, the gentle sinking of the shoulders as they release their effort. If the body feels still, let it be still. If it shifts slightly,
let it shift. Nothing needs to be corrected. With each breath out, allow the day to move a little farther away, not by pushing it out, but by no longer holding it close. Thoughts can fade into the background like distant sounds at night. Present but no longer requiring attention. There is nothing you need to remember from this moment. Nothing you need to carry forward. Sleep does not need preparation. It arrives when the body is ready, often quietly, without a clear beginning. You don't need to notice the moment it comes. You don't need to cross any threshold. Awareness can soften and drift without permission. If the mind stays lightly active, let it. If it grows quiet, let it. Rest does not depend on silence. It depends on not being asked to do anything else. The body can become heavier now, supported by whatever is beneath it, held without effort. Breathing continues. Time continues. You are free to stop listening at any point. From here on, there is nothing to manage. Nothing to let go of deliberately. Letting go happens on its own when nothing is being held. You can let the body become heavier now, not by trying to relax it, but by allowing gravity to finish what it's already doing. The surface beneath you is holding everything that needs to be held. You don't need to assist. Breathing continues quietly. There may be longer spaces between breaths, or there may not. Either way is fine. The body adjusts on its own when it is no longer being watched. Notice how the face softens when it isn't asked to express anything. The eyes rest deeper in their sockets. The muscles around the mouth no longer need to hold a shape. Even the tongue can rest where it is. If there is a sense of drifting, let it happen. If there is a sense of stillness, let that remain. There is no direction to follow. With each breath out, the body can feel slightly heavier, as if it is being invited downward. Not suddenly, not completely, just enough to make effort unnecessary. The chest rises and falls without instruction. The belly moves gently. Everything else can stay still. You don't need to check whether you're awake or asleep. That question doesn't need an answer. The body knows how to move between states without being guided. There may be moments where attention fades and returns. You don't need to notice those moments. You don't need to mark them. The night will hold you through each transition. If thoughts appear briefly, let them dissolve without finishing. If images surface, let them blur at the edges. Nothing here needs clarity. The body can sink a little deeper now, not as an action, but as a natural response to no longer being needed. The weight of the day has already been set down. You are free to stop listening at any point. You are free to drift without noticing. Rest does not require awareness. From here, there is nothing else to do, and nothing else to allow. The body will continue on its own, breathing, settling, resting. Whether these words are heard or not, you are safe. Nothing is required of you. The body is resting. Breathing continues. There is nothing to do. If awareness is present, it can soften. If it fades, that's fine. The night is steady. The body knows how to settle again. You don't need to listen closely. You don't need to stay aware. Everything important is already being handled. If a thought appears, let it pass. If a sensation shifts, let it shift. You are allowed to drift. You are allowed to stop listening. The breath moves on its own. The body remains supported, and nothing needs to be remembered. There is no next step. If sleep deepens, let it deepen. If there is a brief waking, let it pass. The night will hold you. Even silence is enough. There is nothing to fix. There is nothing to finish. You are safe here. There is nothing to do. You are safe. Nothing is being asked of you. The body is resting. Breathing continues on its own. There is nothing to do. If awareness is here, it can soften. If it fades, that's fine. The night is steady. The body knows how to settle again. You don't need to listen. You don't need to remember. Everything important is already being handled. If a thought appears, Let it pass. If nothing appears, that's fine too. You are allowed to drift. You are allowed to stop listening. The breath moves quietly. The body remains supported. There is no next step. There is no problem to solve. Rest continues. Silence is enough. You are safe. There is nothing to do.